Hi there, and welcome to my channel, the channel that I'm still calling Work in Progress, which I may call this channel that forever, as we follow the yellow brick road to see which way this needs to go or how this is going to evolve, because it's going to just keep evolving. But right now, I'm still on the track of feeling that it would be a really good thing to gather people together, everyday people, just like you and me, to share our stories of our life journey. And what these stories can do for others is help others through challenges, through difficulties, or maybe inspire someone to do something or move in a certain direction. So that's why I want to have these stories shared, and we'll share them on Zoom. I'd have a conversation with you on Zoom, and then put the recording on this channel. So if you're inspired by hearing this and you're watching right now, then just look below the video, because there's a contact link to get a hold of me, and let's talk about doing this and see if we can get this idea started. In the meantime, we're still a very new channel, so in the meantime, I'm kind of talking about stuff that I think is important today. There's no doubt in my mind we're going through a very challenging time as the human species. We're definitely going through a evolution. It's times like none of us have ever been through before, so it is really important that each one of us, I think, reach out and participate or contribute to this time that we're in. And so this is where my contribution is coming in and doing the things I like to do, which is this, and seeing how this contribution could help others. So today, what I want to talk about is something that I know we all struggle with. And the reason I want to talk about this thing that I'll tell you in a minute, that we all struggle with, is because I think right now, as we're going through this difficult, challenging time, I believe it's more important than ever to really kind of grasp what life really is about on some level, or on different levels, let's put it that way, and how can we begin to really get in the flow of life rather than suffer. And the truth is, when we suffer, we make our own self suffer, right? It all happens within, not without. So anyway, to start this idea, I want to tell you a little story. It's a Zen story, and it's one I've always liked, and I think maybe it's something that can really express this idea I'm trying to communicate to you. So the story takes place in the old days, with a farmer, a Chinese farmer, in fact, and this farmer has this horse that is very important to him because it helps him make a living. One day, this horse runs away, and many of his neighbors tell him they're so sorry. Oh my God, that's so unfortunate, they say. But the farmer says, too soon to tell. Well, many days later, this horse shows up, and he brings with him other wild horses. Now the neighbors gather around and say, oh, how lucky and fortunate you are. And the farmer says, too soon to tell. So the farmer's son the next day is trying to tame one of the horses, and he falls off the horse and he breaks his leg. Again, the neighbors show up, and they offer their condolences. They're so sorry that this happened. And the farmer says, too soon to tell. Then, several days later, while this son is just sitting around with his broken leg, some men show up looking for able-bodied men to help fight in the war. And they look at this disabled son and reject him. Again, the neighbors show up, and they are saying, oh, you are so lucky. Lucky you, you're so fortunate. And again, the farmer says, too soon to tell. So here's the point of the story, as you probably got. We, as humans, we judge what's going on in our life. When things happen, we judge it as good or bad or maybe somewhere in the middle, but we judge. And the truth is, the reality is, everything in life is neutral. Everything that happens is neutral. What causes us to suffer is we put labels on it as bad. Or even when we put a label on as good, if the good ends up not good and ends up bad, then we suffer. In other words, we don't just allow things to be neutral. We go ahead and jump ahead to looking at what happens to us in our life on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, or even a yearly basis, and we begin to judge these, again, as good or bad. And we're judging from a belief system that we grew up with, or a program that's, that's been installed in us. It's all over the place where things are judged as good or bad. If you just listen to the advertisements out there, they're always going to fix something before it gets too bad. Whether it's, your health and you need to do this, or you're going to suffer from that if you don't take care of your health, or if you don't buy health insurance, and you end up getting ill, then you may not be able to be properly taken care of if you don't have the right health insurance. And it goes, on and on. I mean, it just goes on and on. You know what I'm talking about. So we're kind of programmed, we're really programmed pretty much to judge what's happening in our life as the good or bad or somewhere in the middle. Where in reality, the truth of the matter is, anything that happens and everything that happens in our life is neutral. We don't know where that is going to lead. And I'm sure, just like myself, I've been able many times, certainly many times, to be able to look back on something that happened in my life that at the time I was so devastated. Oh my God, this is awful. And I suffered and suffered. And then somewhere down the road, that particular incident ended up being a great situation because something happened because of that, which put me in a very good position, let's say. So, what you thought was going to be bad ends up good, what you thought was going to be good ends up bad. Either way, we're labeling it. Whereas if we could look at life happening as neutral, just neutral, or too soon to tell, then the suffering ends because we're not attached to a particular outcome. Anytime we attach, which we do, to outcomes being this way versus that way, good or bad, we suffer, I mean, it's like a crapshoot. How do we know it's going to end up good or bad? But we judge right then and there when whatever it is that happens as good, bad, or somewhere in the middle. And this is where the suffering all happens. It happens because we're not in a neutral place. Now, I'm not saying this is easy to do because it is not. There's so much out there telling us the opposite. There's all these voices in the forest telling us what's good and what's bad, that it's very difficult to kind of back up and stand away and not react. Not react. And just watch. Just witness, which is really what we're here to do, right? Who are we? We're spirit having a human experience. These are all experiences. We're not the situation. We're not the character in the movie. We're not. We are the witness. The awareness is another way to look at it. We're the awareness. We came here to have the experiences. But we're not the experience. We feel the experience, yes, but we're not. Life is not meant to be suffering. However, we've turned it into that by our reactions and our beliefs around what is good, what is bad, what is maybe okay. All these judgments that we have going on totally take us down a road of no return, of really feeling a lot of suffering, a lot of difficulties and challenges, and it just takes up all the space. You know, it takes the life out of us, actually. So my feeling and what my guides have been kind of passing down to me most recently is we are at a time of really having to make some major changes. And they're all going to be done on the inner. It's not out there. I'm not going to fix anything out there, okay? There's no fix, first of all. And it's all within, you know? And the within is causing us to really honestly look at how we react to things, to situations, to people, to whatever. To really peel the onion down to the absolute nothingness of the onion so that we can really see what's going on. We can really begin to see through the third eye instead of through the ego. And to kind of start to do this, what I've been doing, is I start with really little things. So I'll notice, first of all, I've become very aware to notice what I'm labeling, you know, as good or bad. I mean, even labeling where it's not a big deal, but I'm still labeling. So for instance, in California right now, we've been getting tons of rain, and it leaves and then it comes back. And right now we're getting toward the end of the last 5 days, I think it's been, of rain and cold, yucky weather. But I begin to judge, okay, I don't like this. I mean, you know, I like perfect weather. I don't know about you guys, but I like perfect weather. So as it's rainy, and it's been raining each and every day, doesn't make it fun to go outside, etc. But as it's coming toward an end, like I believe after today, one more day of forecasted rain, and then we get several days of no rain and sun. And so I'm now judging, oh, this is good because we're almost done with this rainy period, and then we'll have sun. Well, what this does is it just makes me attached to an outcome, because let's say instead of just one more day of rain, it ends up that some system comes in, because the weather's all over the place everywhere right now. I mean, it's crazy. So let's just say instead of just having one more day of rain, we end up getting 3 or 4 more days of rain. And then I've already been attached to, no, the rain's going to stop, and we're going to have sun, and be able to do things outside. And it's a good day to go to the grocery store, whatever it is that I'm planning, you know? And then when it doesn't happen, I'm attached to having the outcome that I thought should happen, and then I'm suffering. Now, you know, that's a very mild type of suffering, one could say. In other words, it's not extreme, but it's the way that we can start to see it. So we become aware of what are we thinking, you know? This really helps me to kind of go back up, and say, what am I judging right now? Or why am I feeling like this uncomfortable kind of, you know, get this churning, this uncomfortable feeling when we're not at peace. And, you know, it's like chronic. I mean, it's just kind of there. And then when I can pull up and see, oh, I'm thinking I'm wanting this rain to stop. I'm in resistance. Now, we have preferences. That's true. We all have preferences, right? Whether it's a preference of a type of food, preference for weather, preference for what we're wearing, you know, we have preferences, and that's who we are. That's what we do. But when we make those preferences good or bad, in other words, we add them to the judgment of what's going on, and then we attach to the preference. Again, this is where the suffering comes in. So when we become aware, like I've been working toward, on just small things, like in this case, the rainy weather, it lets me kind of ease into this idea. Could I start to see what happens in my life as neutral? As it's too soon to tell, because it is. That is the truth. And it's only through my own judgment, my own belief system, that I cause myself to suffer, because whether I judge it good or bad doesn't change it. It's neutral. And there's a plan in place. Remember, we came in with this plan. We agreed to this plan. Some people call it a contract. Whatever we call it. You know, the script's been written. It's in the can. It's happening. The movie's running. And we're just having the experience, because that's why we wanted to come into this body. We wanted to have the experience of being in this form. And then we forget, of course, right? We totally forget when we come in what we came here for. But because of what's going on today and the energies and the, what do I want to call it, the challenges that we're having, we really need to find these small ways to start to wake up out of these illusions. So the easiest and probably the best way to start any of these, call it an exercise or this waking up, is to start with the small things. And you know, I've been amazed how much good, bad I have going on all day long. Really, small things. This is good, this is bad. It's like a unconscious, really. So I see I'm discovering so many things, and I'm probably missing more than the things I'm discovering, right? Yeah, my hair came out good, my hair came out bad. Yeah, my hair is kind of in the middle. That's a judgment right there. It's kind of almost unconscious, right? Well, it's a good thing this didn't happen. This happened, that I didn't make this plan today because it rained, and so that's a good thing. It's these simple things where we are so programmed into good, bad, or you know, something in the middle, or maybe it's even worse than bad and it's devastating, or it's better than good and it's incredible and amazing and awesome, and all the things that we do, these ups and downs. It's like we're constantly going in up and down, up and down. Wow, no wonder we're exhausted, right? It takes a lot out of us to constantly decide what's good or bad. Now, here's the thing. We can't force ourselves to judge something as good, like positive thinking. Oh, this is good. Or really force ourselves. I think it's a forcing ourselves into thinking something's good. I don't think we'll force ourselves to thinking something's bad, because that just takes over. But I think we have to be careful that we don't see this as, oh, well, if I can positive think my way through this, then that'll work, and then I'll just see everything as good. Or maybe that's the way I could see everything as neutral, by not caring. No, it can't happen that way. You got to go inside, and you got to really take a look at where did this judgment come from, and really allow that energy to come up and talk to us. Our energies do talk to us, and that is the way it can be released. So it's inside. It's an inside job where we begin to notice where we're attached to an outcome of whatever, and where we're judging, good or bad. And then we go within and we find, where did this begin? Where did this belief start to happen? You know, we'll go back to childhood and we'll begin to see the programming that we were involved in, or what's going on in our particular environment, and how these decisions got made, of these judgments of what was good, what was bad, what should happen, what shouldn't happen. It's a zillion things. I mean, it's overwhelming when you really start to think about it. But if we can just do a few steps at a time, what can happen actually is it kind of escalates itself. It's like the more often we can get aware of, we're not in the neutral place, we're in the judging of good or bad, but the more often we can move that toward the neutral, in other words, not reacting, being in a neutral place, too soon to tell, watch and just experience, and then too soon to tell, the more often we can do that, the quicker we will be able to move up that ladder, so to speak, or it's not really up a ladder, through, let's say, through the process to where we're having less and less judgment of good or bad, and we're really beginning to experience things as neutral. We're not so reactive anymore. So it starts out, we really have to stay aware. It starts out with little teeny small things, taking baby steps, and at some point those baby steps take us to the grander picture, so to speak, where all of a sudden one day we notice, hey, wait a minute, I'm letting things happen. I'm seeing things as neutral. I'm not having all this judgment, and it feels so much lighter. I have more energy. It's not taking up the space. It's that kind of thing. You know, you can journal about this. We can do automatic writing with this. In other words, through the automatic writing or journaling, we start to see where this all began. And there'll probably be a lot of similarities that happened at certain times that caused us to think as good or bad. It's oftentimes very much around a particular culture or our family background, and these things are just ingrained in each generation. So sometimes it is in us, it's just coming from one generation to another, right? And then we begin to buy into it early on, and then that becomes our life, and then there we are suffering. So the bottom line is we don't have to suffer. We make ourselves suffer. We don't realize we make ourselves suffer, but we do. And we do that in this particular case by deciding what's good or bad. So that's what I wanted to put out there today. That's it. I hope that this helped someone. I hope that maybe the little Zen story gives meaning, and also just go, you know, what's helped me is when I go back and think about all those times where I couldn't really see the good in something, when I was frustrated and couldn't see how things were going to work out. And then I have the rest of the story which says, yeah, but you know, if that hadn't happened, then that couldn't have happened. And I begin to see how things are unraveling, so to speak, or working out would be another way to say it. It's all in the plan, you see, but how it's showing up is not something that we're to judge. We just see it as neutral. It's just the flow of life. It's happening. Life happens. So, again, I hope this made sense. Hope it helped somebody out there. And I think it's definitely a goal that we can reach if you want to look at it that way. Or it's definitely something that we can all look at and experience and know start to see when we're judging the good or the bad. Hopefully so. Anyway, if you liked this video, please click like, and I hope you subscribe as well. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are around this. And remember, if you'd like to have a conversation with me about whatever it is that's going on for you, or something that you feel could help another, whatever it is you want to share, then look below for my contact information. And let's, you know, talk about it and see if this is something that makes sense, and we'll go from there. In the meantime, I'm going to sign off. I'm going to click off. You know, I keep using this clicker to see if I can't get it right. Now, here's what's weird. I can click on pretty easy, but for some reason I have in my head that I'm not going to be able to click this off right away. I know it's in my head. So there you go. There's a belief. So, and I can't force myself to believe that oh no, I'm going to click it off the first time. I just have to let it be and then not judge it. All right? I'm really trying not to judge it. So here we go. I'm going to click off, and until next time, be kind to yourself.